Okay, so looks like I will just, I'll go ahead and start. I need to wrap up what we were working on last time. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. We were basically cleaning up this, adding this color of tile function. Hey, Ben, welcome to the discussion. Feel free to chip in anytime you like. So basically what we were doing is replacing the checks with effectively true and false, just because it simplifies things. Okay, so for instance, this is a tile 2, so this particular check is going to be false. It's not going to be flux. Okay, and this, again, it's a tile 2, so this will be false. This will be false. That's a tile 2. Wait, I'm sorry, this is a key 2, right? So it's not a law, so this is going to be true. And then finally, we've got this. That will be true. Okay, so we can go look at this. The VS Code kind of helps us out a little bit, because you can see how this is brighter than the rest of them. So you can see that the rest of those are just going to automatically be false. So we can come here, we can say, all right, so this is air. And so yeah, air doesn't have any color, does it? So basically, you don't have anything to do. Oh, oops. I took too many closes off there. Yeah, so if you you look at the color of tile function down here, you see that there is no air, because air, oh, here we go. If map, if it's not air, it's not player, then we'll fill the rect. So basically, air doesn't have a color. So basically, we've got this, that doesn't do anything. This one, you'd say that that's true. Rest of this stuff, it's not going to work. It's not air. This is a this is flux. So basically, we know that it's not air or player. So we'll just do the fill rect. We know that it's going to be true. So, and then I deleted that thing again. Same thing here. This is unbreakable. So that's false. And it's not false and not false. Just a second. So if not false and not false, that's the same as if not false or false, right? False or false is false. If not false or false is false. So if not false is true. So if true, so there you go. So this one is player. So player doesn't have a color. We're going to check here. And you've got if true and false. True and false is false, so that goes away. This is stone. Got that. And if true and true, there we go. Falling stone. That's this one here. Right? And you've got, this is box. Got that. Okay, this is a falling box. Just pick what's true and you use it. Lock one. Thank you. Okay. All right, so now we've got all of this. You can see that it, it's not marked as uncompilable. So what we can do is just to test this, we go down to our color of tile function, and we will call the map of y x dot color of tile. We will pass g x y. Then we get rid of all this. Let's go ahead and build that. And then we'll come over here.
Hello.
Hey, Ivan, how you doing?
Can you hear me? Let's say good. I don't have a well set up camera currently on my computer, so I think you can look at my photo and only hear my voice.
That's okay. Not a problem. How are you doing today?
I worked. I have worked all day.
Yeah.
And walked a bit after the work with the son and wife, and usual day, let's say.
Yeah.
I did. I'm doing currently some design and implementation for structured logging for our microservice application.
Really?
Yeah, our infrastructure is very crazy. It is overdone, over engineered, and over everything.
That sounds like fun.
Yes, and of course we have processes with many number of steps, but they are not locked at all. So something failed. You maybe will understand at the end, maybe not.
Okay.
And yeah, currently the big important task is to implement structured logging for all services and put this in Elasticsearch because this is the database we're using. And to use after that Kibana, for example, to look at some statistics, logs, and so on, and to collect basically any meaningful information based on structured logging. Yeah, this is what I'm developing, the object which will be logged and these kind of things, what to be logged where, and this is strange thing because services are different and you have to look at all places to see what they're doing, how they're doing, and what to, and of course to create some common object to do. But this kind of thing, structured logging in one sentence.
Okay. So are you doing this with a logging service, or you're?
Yes, I'm implementing logging service, which will send after that to FluentBit, after that to Logstash, and after that to Elasticsearch. Don't ask me about why we are using FluentBit. This is the decision of our architect. I think this is something which is absolutely unnecessary. Once you have Logstash, you don't need any queue for that. But we are using this queue with a lot of mappings and a lot of pre-processing, post-processing, and so on. But yeah, we are in general, I'm creating logging service for Scala services, which will be dependency for other services. And each service will send the object, log object, which after that will be serialized and thrown through all this crazy flow. And at the end, we will have this object in Elasticsearch.
Okay. That sounds cool.
Yes, and it's something which is must for our application, but we are doing at the end, not at the beginning, because at the beginning, nobody thought about this, even our great architect.
Well,
And when we said, "Hey, Brian, we really need to basically to have this log and so on and so on and so on," a couple of minutes, absolutely quiet, no response. I have to think about that actually. And a couple of days after that, he returned back with crazy diagram with a lot of huge number of many things there. And after long and heavy discussions, we reduced them only to FluentBit, which we definitely was not able to throw out. The argument is that it is used all over the organization and so on and so on. But for some reason, we were first who asked for this and nobody else thought about that. But everybody used that, right?
there you go. You're a trendsetter.
Yeah, but fortunately, I'm not part of all these meetings because, you know, this is not something that excites me. I'm part of some low level and implementation level discussions. And of course, you know, low levels are affected of high levels. But in general, yeah. The other point is that our architect doesn't understand anything about Scala. So Scala is a dark continent for him. And basically this is on me. So this is the fun I have in next probably at least week or probably two.
Just to get it all implemented.
Yes, and I also hope that some other guys will help me to put logging in some other services. Otherwise, I will spend at least a month of this exercise.
Oh dear.
Because yeah, logging is very important thing in microservices. I cannot imagine how people can develop microservices without proper logging, because you have some environment, some cluster somewhere on some virtual server, and you really cannot debug there. You cannot do anything at all. The only thing you have is the log, and if something is broken, this is the only way you can find what happens and where it happens. After that, of course, you can try to reproduce it locally, debug and so on. But first, you must have log.
Right. You don't know where to look otherwise.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, this is my current exciting thing I'm doing. As we spoke with you, I really like Scala already, and basically, if I have a possibility, I will continue definitely in that direction.
Okay.
I
Maybe one of
don't
these
know.
days you could give us an introduction to Scala.
I can do it, no problem. We discussed. I can set up something which will not be really a training, because there are many trainings.
Right,
But it could be some kind of intro. I would say Scala for Java devs.
right. Thinking that
Be-
most of my audience would be Java developers. They can let me know
yeah,
if they're if I'm misunderstanding things.
yes, because the most difficult thing is, at least for me, it was to change mindset, to think in a functional but not in OOP way.
Okay,
This is because Scala gives possibility to write clear OOP also. But it's stupid. I would say, if you want to write clear OOP, just write it in Java. Don't use Scala. So the power of Scala is in other design templates, in other approaches, and it is really important to understand this and start to think in that way. After that, it's really nice, and there are some libraries for Scala. Also, all Java libraries are available. So
right.
there is very good interoperability between Scala and Java on source code level, on bytecode level, and so it performs very well. I was surprised, to be honest, but for example, if you have 50 gigabytes of XML files with text, pictures encoded in base64 and so on, this is parsed and processed in less than 15 minutes on a single processor.
Wow,
50 gigabytes.
wow, that's pretty impressive.
I'm not really sure that I understand all things behind the scenes, how it performs so well, but this is the fact, and this is my implementation, which is not I didn't use some tricky things and so on, just pure functional Scala implementation of parsing and processing XML stuff. So this is one just example. It is really nicely, really powerful in many things, especially in concurrency. It is also very useful, because many things of concurrency problems with shared state, shared mutable state
Right,
are avoided there, because you work, of course, if you work purely in pure functional way with immutable objects and so on, then you don't need to make locks, synchronizations, and these kind of things. Of course, the design of and implementation of algorithm is very different than OOP implementation. But as I said, that's the trick here. The design is different, but also the result of this is also nice. Of course, you can do spaghetti code. This is possible in every language. So
it's the most
I'm not
fun to write.
But yes, but if you follow some, at least the most fundamental principles, then I would say you are on safe side. And even if you have at some point some trouble, it will be not very difficult to get out from there. So this is what I can say with about year and a half experience with Scala already. Basically, there is, I have also them, there are course lectures of Scala course by Martin Oderski. You know, this is the author of the Scala
Right.
language. My colleagues don't like these courses very much because they are so academic. But maybe, you know, I am an academic person
Right.
as background, and I like this. Yes, they are not practically oriented. I mean, you cannot start to develop production code immediately after getting these courses,
Yeah.
because the accent there is on the concept, why this is like that, why this is like that, what is functional programming, what is pure functional programming, and so on and so on. Some
Right.
syntaxis things and these kind of things. And basically, you after that, you will not be ready just to start to write production code. But this is very good fundamental. And after looking some other short particular trainings and looking on some libraries and open source code, you can start doing. This is what I did. Basically, my company take those courses for me,
Okay.
and I got them for maybe 3 weeks or month or something like that. After that, I really started to develop the module from scratch. By the way, I'm lucky. I'm really lucky with this, because they just gave me requirements, and they said just start implementing this service from scratch. So
Wow.
I had a chance to implement one of these services. Is absolutely developed by me from scratch. And this is how I learned Scala, because yeah, I write something after that. Yeah, I found something better, refactoring, and so on and so on and so on. And after some iterations, one thing is that I really started to understand this language, at least at the middle. I'm not a guru, of course, but on some normal level. And from the other side, the code now is really good, especially comparing to the other services that are some maybe 2 or 3 years old. It looks and performs much better.
That's fantastic.
So yes, and it depends, of course, what you want to do. But apologize for some kid sounds in the background, but this is my son who is playing now.
Yeah.
And basically, I would say that mm, it is a general purpose language. You can do anything there. As I said, maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense to use it as OP language. It's possible, definitely it's possible. It's maybe not the best choice, because you know, there is one tricky thing, maybe the trickiest thing.
Yeah.
Scala developers are much less than Java developers.
Right.
And if you write some big project only on Scala, probably at some point it is possible to have a problem with support. It will be difficult to find enough people.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. I was going to ask
so
you. I assume the company was already doing Scala when you were put on the project, right?
yes, but for example, when I started at this company, I didn't see Scala at all, and doesn't matter. They got me and they say, okay, if you want, only say if you want. If you want, then we will get training for you. We'll learn you. We'll teach you, and so on and so on. And you will start to work on this. So they employ me with knowing that I really will start with this technology from scratch, and not only with me. Basically, they know that in practice it's very difficult to take experienced Scala developer.
Right.
In Bulgaria, and not only in Bulgaria, in London also, and yeah, it's relatively not relatively. The Scala developers are not a lot for now, and in most cases, they are just Java developers who switched to this,
Right.
which is fine. But if I start, for example, if I have to start my project in my company, uh, and definitely I mm, prefer Scala from technical perspective, but I will think, is it good idea from future support and so on and so on. This is only concern I would say about that. But
Right.
otherwise, it's really good if you want. And if you think there will be some interested people, I will prepare some presentation for you. You will say for 30 minutes or.
Okay. That would be fun. Yeah.
Of course, I cannot share examples of code from my work, but I can put some other examples.
Okay. How
Uh,
how could we get access to this Martin Odersky training that you did?
Basically, this training is available on Udemy. It is paid. I was able to
Okay.
download the videos and PowerPoint slides, so I can share them with you. But because on Udemy it is paid,
Right.
and it is paid by my company, I don't have a personal account there, but I downloaded the materials.
Okay.
So I can just share this thing. And I would say, at least for people like me, this is something that you should start with. It is definitely not enough, but it is the beginning. And because if you skip this step, probably you will start to write some code at some point, but
Hmm.
this will be without understanding, without some uh, it will be a dirty way. I don't like this approach.
That's how most really ugly legacy code gets built. We just get in there and
Yes,
start coding
absolutely.
away.
Yes, absolutely. And this legacy code is legacy not because it is old. It is legacy because it is written as legacy.
Right.
So, that's why I don't like this approach.
Hmm.
And I prefer to at least, this is my mindset. I'm not saying that all people should think like me, but this is what is my approach. I have to understand at least at some level. Of course, you cannot know everything what is behind the scenes, and it is not necessary, but you have to understand the fundamental principles, the design patterns, and so on, to start to think in that way, especially if you don't have experience with functional languages.
Right.
If you have, then maybe things will be easier and faster. But especially if this is the first, nowadays developers, they are in most cases only OP because this is the holy cow of now.
Right.
you know
Holy cow, I like that.
of nowadays, and this is something which is everywhere and in everything, and
Yeah.
everybody just thinks in that way, in open way. And if you, especially for younger developers, when you change and when you give to them this concept, it is very hard at the beginning.
Right.
And they don't really understand why this is like that, why I should do this, why I cannot just put mutable variable, and these kind of questions,
Right. There's, excuse me, I was reading an article some time ago about how people who are just learning how to program, functional programming makes more sense than the imperative.
Yes, basically, this is functional in mathematical meaning of word functional.
Right.
Because in that way, code function, which is implemented, it's analog of the meaning of mathematical function. So basically, yeah, this is high level approach. I would say not everything is possible to be implemented in functional way, but it's about low level. For example, if at some point you need to use imperative programming on operating system level. So you cannot implement operating system in a functional way, or at least I cannot imagine how it will look like. Because you have to mutate their file system, for example, drivers and so on. So these kind of things maybe cannot be, or as I said, or at least I cannot imagine how they could be implemented in functional way. But everything else on the top of that, on high level, any business logic definitely makes more sense to be implemented in a functional way, especially if you have parallelism and all these things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I don't have experience with other functional languages, so I cannot compare Scala to them and say what is better and why. But I have a feeling that Scala is very flexible. As I said, it is not pure functional language. You can write pure functional code, but this is your choice by convention. Scala allows you to do everything. And it is flexible in that way. But interoperability with Java is also something which is very, very important, because if you have even some very genius language, but it is your own language, which is nobody else knows. You don't have any other libraries, and you cannot use any other libraries.
Right.
Your language will be really genius, but you will have many difficulties to use it. So this is not the case with Scala. I can guess that this is the case with some other functional languages like Camel and so on. They are maybe also nice, but I don't know. There are many questions, but as I said, you can import. For example, I'm using wiremock for mocking HTTP servers for tests, and many other Java libraries. Also, a string class, for example, is just wrapped and put in Scala. So the string you are using actually the Java string with all the stuff there. Other types also, this is interesting thing. So if I prepare a presentation, I will put this in a separate chapter. What happens with types, how they are nullable or not, references and so on, because this is also, I see that many people are messing with this. They just didn't put enough attention on that part, but it is really important. And basically the way of catching errors, the error handling, how to work without exceptions, for example, without throwing and catching exceptions. There are very nice concepts, because if you're throwing an exception and you have two threads, you know that if you throw an exception from one thread, it is not visible on the other thread.
Right.
And this could be a problem somewhere. There is in Scala there is one library which is with name cats. I don't know who is writing names for open source libraries, because this is not only open source library with interesting name. But anyway, this is a library which is very complicated. By the way, Martin Odersky doesn't have good feedback about it. But anyway, we are using it at some point. It gives you out of the box some complicated operations without side effects. You know, one of important things in functional programming is to avoid side effects in your code. And there is, for example, input and output operations and these kind of things without side effects. And they're giving to you this out of the box, which is, I would say, useful. Maybe they are not doing in some most ideal way, as Udersky said. Maybe this is like that, but for practical purposes, I would say it is good enough because we are using it in all our services and we don't have problems with it actually, except 1 or 3 bugs, but that's normal. And this is the what I wanted to say basically. This is what also allows you to use, for example, to manage HTTP requests and these kind of things. Exceptions also. About exceptions, you can use the Scala approach with option iders and so on objects to manage the logic flow without throwing an exceptions, and in that way avoiding to throw an exception from the other thread, for example. It doesn't matter on which thread you are working. If the code uses the Scala objects and so on, then you are on safe side. This is what I wanted to say.
Okay.
And these kind of things, some of them are based on my experience. I didn't read them, but when I did some things and basically on testing and finding some bugs and fix them, this is how I learned some of these things.
That's how we tend to learn stuff, is fixing bugs, generally other people's bugs.
Yes, and also start to write your own code. This is
Right.
also very important, and that's why I would say that this will be a good start for somebody else who want to start doing some stuff here. What is one thing about building an infrastructure part? I don't know what to say. It is maybe not harder than Maven and some other Java stuff. Maybe it is not better. It is not worse, but it is not better. There is SBT. It is called SBT, Scala Build Tool, which is a console application, which you have SBT file where is described what you want to build and so on. And SBT tool will build this for you. There is, just a second.
Scala build tool.
Yes, and there are many tricky parts there. I'm not very advanced in that part because I'm not doing the infrastructure. I have only basic understanding there, how to build your project, basically, how to put your dependencies and so on. There are many other things, how to use your own Artifactory, for example, and so on and so on. But it is relatively well documented. It works relatively stable. I would say that it could be better, but this is what it is at this moment. About testing, I'm seeing that you are writing JUnit. Basically, Scala test is again something. If you look at it initially, you will say, "What is this craziest thing?" And after that, you will see what is the huge power of this way of testing. You don't need to use annotations there. You can just write any string as method name, which allows you to describe in whatever notation you want to describe what test is doing. And you can organize your test in hierarchical way, which is very useful in some cases.
Yeah.
And you have possibilities to assert when you are do assertions on case classes, so-called case classes, it is immutable, Scala immutable objects. You don't need to care about equals, hash, overriding of equals and hash, and to forget something and think why object person one is not equal to another object person one.
Okay.
So Scala by default, when it compares two objects, two immutable objects with some fields, it compares the state of the objects, not the references, but the state of the objects. And if the state of the fields is identical, then objects are identical. This is very useful in tests in particular, not only, but also in tests. And other things also. This is what I'm throwing now, just like improvisation, that there are many other things. But they are very quick also. Tests are performing very, very quick. And you can really check you can check types, states, and all other things also. But yeah, this is also very good thing, I would say. And it is preferable to use it than JUnit. You can use JUnit from Scala, definitely no problem.
Yeah, I see that.
But it doesn't make a lot of sense. There are other test approaches, but they're not really unit tests in our understanding. They are, for example, you are putting in test some logic which have to be matched. And after that, when test is run, the engine generates random data and passes to the test and see if the implementation matches the logic in the test. It is, for me, it is a bit complicated and it is not straightforward applicable everywhere, but it is also very interesting in some cases, and it covers many scenarios that basically you are not covering by doing usual unit tests.
Okay.
I just know this as theory. I didn't use this still in my practice, but there is in Odersky's course, there is a task for this. By the way, there are exercises in the course, which is of course not available if you don't pay the course.
Right. That's how it goes.
Yes, and you cannot take the certificate if it is important for you. But as I said, I have videos and PPT presentations of the course. So there are, I don't know, a couple of gigabytes, but I can share them with you.
Okay.
And yes, my company paid this course because it was important for them, for me to take a certificate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So all exercises, yeah, because when you are service, you have to show to the client that we are.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah. So, but anyway, this is especially first part. This is very very good.
Okay.
And yeah, I can prepare some presentation. How much time you want to? 30 minutes, 40?
Yeah, that would
Or
probably be fine. 30
yeah.
minutes is probably good, just 'cause that'll give us time to have
Okay,
questions and demos and
we can
discussion.
do another one if after that if
Sure, if
the
there's more,
so
I
yeah.
guess there's always more,
So
right?
initially, yeah, there always there is more. So okay, I will prepare some. I cannot say when exactly it will be. I'll try to prepare this in next couple of weeks. I cannot say that it will be for next week. So, I have a lot of things to do, not only at work. But I will try in a couple of weeks to prepare and let you know if you need to share with somebody else to join and so on. I will let you know at least a week earlier if it is
Okay,
fine for you.
that'd be great. Yeah,
Uh,
next week I will be on vacation, so I won't be hosting a brown bag. I don't know if I'm
okay,
going to have internet where I'm at, so I
okay.
if I do, then I'll be here, but don't count on it.
Mm, you don't need to be here on vacation,
Yeah.
definitely. So okay, I'm saying basically about 2 or 3 weeks. I will let you know how it goes. So
Sounds good.
if you think there will be some other people who is interested, then
Yeah. Well, we've got Ben Y here, so you can.
hi Ben. Basically, I'm speaking all the time.
Yeah.
So I hope that it was not very annoying for Ben to
Not
listen
a
all the
problem.
time, all this stuff.
Not a problem. Yeah, this is good. Now I will have to cut things short here. I need to run my daughter off to school to work. That's why I'm going
Okay,
to start moving
so
these meetings an hour earlier so that
yeah. By the way, for me, will be also more comfortable if you move it an hour earlier
okay, then I
because
will do that.
usually it is 7 p.m. For me. But if you take in hour earlier, will be 6 p.m., which will be immediately after the work. So for me, will be better.
Okay,
At
very
least for
good.
me, I don't know. So especially for presentation, if will be possible, then we'll be fine.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm going to have to go. It's really good talking
Okay.
with you again, Ivan, and I'll look forward to learning some more about Scala. And,
I'll try to show you some interesting things.
and thanks for coming, Ben. And I guess we'll talk to everybody next week.
Mhm. Talk to you. I'm sure.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, Scott.